rebate for citizens with tax liability and the elimination of the 4% tax bracket for the next 4 years. The proposed package includes the $200 million+ pay raise for the state's teachers, and it has been vetted by the Legislative Budget Office and the Department of Revenue. It will be brought to the Senate Finance Committee in the coming weeks.
The Oxford area may be one of the fastest growing areas in the state, but Mississippi's overall declining population has some officials at the university worried. The population decline in rural areas has made it a real possibility that Mississippi will lose a congressional seat when data is measured from the 2030 census. Mississippi was one of only 3 states that reported population loss. And while this is the case for rural areas, highly populated areas such as Jackson metro area, the Gulf Coast, and DeSoto County are in fact seeing growth.
As if Oxford hasn't seen enough of the cold this winter, a winter storm is approaching that could drop 1/10 to 1/2 inch of ice and sleet from tonight to tomorrow evening. The entire Memphis metro area and much of the Mid-South is expecting a wintry mix, and the National Weather Service placed Lafayette County under a winter storm watch with possibilities of ice and sleet. While northeast Arkansas, West Tennessee, and the Missouri Boot Heel will see the brunt of the weather, some power outages and tree damage are possible with enough ice. If you are driving the roads, be careful, be on the lookout for severe weather alerts.
The Oxford area isn't alone. Winter storms are threatening most of the country today with inches of ice and snow. CNN's Daryl Forges has a look at the series of storms sweeping the United States.
Make no mistake about it, this is a major winter storm that we'll be dealing with for the next 2 days.
Major cities preparing for another massive winter storm. In Ohio, crews are still digging out from the last round.
Hopefully it'll make it before everything starts freezing by getting the snow out of the way.
Forecasters predict up to 15 to 20 inches of snow walloping parts of the Midwest. But the main threat with this system, ice.
People can navigate on roads that are hard packed because they still have traction. But with the ice, it's hard to get traction.
Prompting a warning from the mayor of Indianapolis.
Starting Wednesday evening at the latest, drivers should stay off the roads.
With impacts expected to linger into the weekend, several governors have declared states of emergency.
After last year, I think us all Texans are kind of scared.
Further south, Governor Greg Abbott is assuring Texans the state's power grid is better prepared than last year, when an ice storm led to widespread power outages and left thousands freezing for weeks.
I'm a little skeptical. I'm hoping that everything works out good, but it's always good to be prepared.
Tonight's temperatures should be warm enough to keep the rain from freezing, but make sure to double check the conditions before getting on the roads tonight and early tomorrow morning.
As tensions remain high between Russia and Ukraine, President Biden is sending more American soldiers to Europe. We'll update you on that situation next. But first, here's a look at your current conditions.
Hurricanes and major flooding threaten cities, towns, and rural homes across the Gulf states. So chances are there will be more storms and floods near here again. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has all the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Times during class and I tell her to talk to him and it's like, oh, ew. Give me it.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not my first time bartending, so
It's a sausage party in here.
it's fine. I'm very familiar.
Yeah, because you're a sexy girl, Sam. Last thing, totally last thing,
Yeah.
is that the music, when Momo kicks it into high gear, is going to get a little bit loud in here. So your customers are going to have a hard time hearing you. So you may want to.
What?
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool. To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
Tensions between Russia and other European countries remain high. And today, President Biden authorized the deployment of more troops to Europe. CNN's Karen Kafa has the details.
Amid rising tensions between Russia and the West, President Joe Biden formally approving the deployment of 3,000 U.S. troops to Eastern Europe in the coming days.
This force is designed to deter aggression and enhance our defensive capabilities in frontline allied states.
The additional forces are separate from the 8,500 U.S. personnel placed on heightened alert last week and include 1,000 troops currently based in Germany, repositioning to Romania, with another 2,000 troops deploying to Poland and Germany from the U.S.
These are not permanent moves. They are moves designed to respond to the current security environment. Moreover, these forces are not going to fight in Ukraine. They're going to ensure the robust defense of our NATO allies.
The decision comes as diplomatic talks with Moscow are proving ineffective, with Russia continuing to build up forces along the Ukrainian border and issuing security demands to NATO allies.
It's important that we send a strong signal to Mr. Putin and, frankly, to the world that NATO matters to the United States.
Ukraine's foreign minister expressing appreciation for the added support Wednesday and warning of what he believes are Russia's motivations.
Russia aims to shatter the long-established order in Europe and Euro-Atlantic area, undermine its core principles, and destroy the post-Cold War security architecture.
The Pentagon says the U.S. is planning for all contingencies, with more troop deployments still a possibility. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
The confidential documents that the U.S. and NATO sent to Russia last week leaked today in a Spanish newspaper. In the documents, the United States and NATO refuse Russia's demand to keep Ukraine out of NATO. Kirby addressed the leak today, saying that it backs up everything that U.S. and NATO officials have said so far.
Even as the United States prepares to deploy more troops, the Army's numbers are about to drop. Today, the Army announced that any soldier who refuses to get vaccinated against the coronavirus will be discharged immediately unless they give a valid exemption or a pending request. An Army statement said that unvaccinated soldiers are a risk to the branch as a whole. The policy applies to both active duty service members and those in the reserves.
Houston's about to have a problem, sort of. After 3 decades in orbit, NASA plans to retire the International Space Station in January 2031 with a big splash. The ISS will be crashed into the Pacific Ocean at Point Nemo, the most remote part of the ocean that has served as NASA's crash site for hundreds of pieces of space debris. The ISS, located 227 miles above Earth, has been home to some 200 astronauts from 19 countries over the past 22 years. Once retired, the future of international space travel is murky, as NASA plans to rely on the private sector to help continue scientific research in space. This comes after years of dwindling funding for the government entity.
In health news, American happiness is plummeting. According to a new Gallup poll, 38% of Americans are not happy in their lives. This number has decreased by 10% since the pandemic began in 2020. 41% of the participants said that they were happy with overall life quality and government, while only 35% said they were satisfied with issues of policy. The people who claim to be very happy in their lives also reached a record low. Another poll from Marist College shows that this is the first time that Americans are more pessimistic than optimistic.
Equally alarming is a new study showing that melatonin use is up in the U.S. and overuse could be a problem. A report in the medical journal JAMA shows that Americans took more than twice the amount of melatonin in 2018 as they did in 2008. While it is safe for occasional use like jet lag, overnight shifts, or general sleeplessness, high levels can lead to significant issues like dementia and early mortality. And since the FDA doesn't regulate melatonin pills, they could contain harmful additives or more melatonin than advertised.
With the Super Bowl less than 2 weeks away, a former NFL head coach is suing multiple organizations within the league over racist hiring practices. Recently fired Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores spoke up about the lawsuits.
Look, I love coaching football. I'm called to coach football. I'm gifted to coach football. And I still want to coach. Let's be clear about that. But this is bigger than coaching. This is bigger than me.
Flores is suing his former team as well as the New York Giants and Denver Broncos for discrimination. Flores said that the Giants held an interview with him despite having already decided who they would hire in order to meet the league's rule that teams interview at least 2 minority candidates from outside their organization when looking for a new head coach. Leaked texts between Flores and Patriots head coach Bill Belichick appeared to back up those claims. Of 27 current head coaches in the NFL, only the Pittsburgh Steelers' Mike Tomlin is black. 5 teams are still searching for a head coach. Flores also said that while coaching the Dolphins, owner Stephen Ross offered to pay him $100,000 for each game he lost in order to secure the Dolphins a higher pick in the draft. Flores said his refusal was part of what led to his firing.
Coming up next in sports, head coach Kermit Davis and the Rebel basketball team were able to upset a top 25 opponent in the LSU Tigers last night. And the Washington football team has officially announced the new name for its team. Find out more up next in sports.
I surrender.
All right, pal.
Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Can I play with it?
No, absolutely not. It's not a toy. You know that. Anyway, I need it to protect you, your sister, and Mom.
But what about the 8 kids who get shot every day by mistake?
Where'd you hear that?
Where do you keep it?
It's hidden.
I bet it's on the top shelf of the closet, under your sweatshirts. Is it loaded? Remember when I found my Christmas gifts? You always told me to be curious.
No, that's not what I meant.
And when it's just me and Mom, I could use the gun to protect her.
No, Justin, I promise. I'm always here for you.
But Dad, you're not always here.
There's an epidemic spreading. Scientists say it can change your brain. It can release dangerous chemicals like formaldehyde into your bloodstream. It can expose your lungs to acrolein, which can cause irreversible damage. It's not a parasite, not a virus, not an infection. It's vaping.
Don't ignore the subtext. It's on us to intervene in sexual assault. Because we can. Take the pledge at itsonus.org.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
Oh, what a wild ride it is to be an Ole Miss fan. And if you've kept up with the men's basketball team this season, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Rebels traveled to Baton Rouge last night to take on a number 25 ranked LSU team, with arguably one of the best defenses in the nation. Ole Miss handled that defense just fine in the first half, scoring 65.4% over LSU. But the Tigers clawed their way back in the second. In the final minutes, freshman guard Deshaun Ruffin went down with a knee injury. Foul trouble forced Austin Crowley out of the game, and Luis Rodriguez was not far behind him. It all fell on the shoulders of Nizer Brooks, whose crucial loose ball rebounds and clutch free throws helped Ole Miss hang on and secure the 76-72 win over LSU. As for Ole Miss women's track and field, the number 2 performer in NCAA history and number 4 in the history of the world for collegiate weight throwing, Shea Taiwo, has been named the Bowerman 2022 Women's Watch List this afternoon. The Bowerman is collegiate track and field's version of the Heisman Trophy in college football. It began in 2009 and it is presented each year to the most outstanding male and female athletes in the nation. In Beijing, the Olympics are officially underway. 48 hours before the opening ceremony, curlers from 8 different countries, including the United States, kicked off the mixed doubles competition, the first event of the Beijing Games, at the National Aquatic Center. Vicky Persinger and Chris Plies, representing USA, faced Australia in their first round-robin game, pulling out a 6-5 win on the first day of Olympic competition. The Washington football team has unveiled their new name today. They will now be known as the Washington Commanders. The former name and logo, which has established in the 1930s, was retired 18 months ago after years of complaints on its offensive nature toward Native Americans. Co-owner and co-CEO Dan Snyder says the new logo features bold lines and angled cuts, which the team defines as a symbol of forward movement and progress. The W is inspired by military rank insignia to tie in the team's new identity while still honoring the traditional gold and burgundy colors. Sales for the new team merchandise opened earlier today. And that's to wrap things up with some NBA action. The Memphis Grizzlies are set to face the New York Knicks tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time in New York. Jay Morant and the Grizzlies believe that they are building something special, and for a team that has never won a playoff series, this might just be their time to shine. The Grizzlies are a tight-knit, young team who are ruffling some feathers throughout the NBA, and they want you to know it. The Grizzlies have gone 16-9 away from home and scored 112 points while outscoring opponents by 3.6 points per game. The outstanding play from Memphis has put them among some of the best teams in the league, as they have the 3rd best record in the NBA. Morant says, "We're building an empire." Well, let's hope that building continues tonight against New York. That's all I've got for sports. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at rebel_watch for the latest sports updates.
Thanks, Emily. It's Groundhog Day, and today's winter storms don't seem promising. Find out what the groundhog thinks we're in for in terms of winter weather, coming up.
I got some Oxy after I hurt my neck. First, I took them to feel better. Then, I just kept taking them. I didn't know they'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
We don't have time for spills.
Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places that this heart of mine embraces all day through. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees the wishing well. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is blue, I'll be looking at the moon, and I'll be seeing you. I'll be looking at the moon, and I'll be seeing you.
We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are distinguished as a Carnegie R1 top 2.5% research institution. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Six more weeks of winter. That's what Puxtawani Phil thinks after he saw his shadow this morning. If the famed groundhog doesn't see his shadow, it means we're in for an early spring. Or does it?
The tradition of Groundhog Day has been predicting seasons since 1887, but Phil's track record in recent years isn't too impressive. According to the National Centers for Environmental Information, he has only been right 4 out of the last 10 years, so there may be some hope for warmer weather just around the corner.
And before we sign off tonight, we do have breaking news out of Jackson. The medical marijuana bill that has been contentious in the legislature for the last few weeks has passed, so medical marijuana will be legalized in the state of Mississippi. But for now, that's all we have for tonight. And for NewsWatch Ole Miss, I'm Mason Ciano.
And I'm Annabelle Kinney. Make sure to follow us on social media at NewsWatch Ole Miss for the latest updates on Ole Miss and beyond.
Thank you and good night.